project example, a client Joe is asking to design a new state-of-the-art tic-tac-toe game. Tic-tac-toe is a two-players game who take turns marking the spaces in a 3x3 grid with an X or an O. The player who succeeds in placing 3 of their symbol markers in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row is the winner. X or O is randomly assigned to a player in the game, and the X player goes first. Let's apply what we learned and create an Agile project plan. Let's review Agile project planning tools associated with each phase of the project. In the initiation phase, you will need to create a product vision, create a product roadmap, identify stakeholders, develop feature breakdown structure, create a prioritized backlog, conduct release planning. In the planning and estimate phase, you will create user stories, estimate user stories, create and estimate tasks, create sprint backlog, and create sprint burndown chart. In the implementation phase, you will create deliverables, conduct daily stand-ups, refine and prioritize the sprint backlog. In the review phase, you will demo the product, validate the sprint deliverables are met, and validate the team's velocity. In the retrospective phase, you will be going over lessons learned with your team and using it to build new ways of doing things and making the next iteration more valuable. In the release phase, you will ship deliverables, conduct release retrospective, and upgrade lessons learned log. We of course will not be implementing this project, so this example will be limited to planning only. You can download attached materials and follow along. The product vision development is an essential step in the Agile project where the following questions need to be answered. What features and capabilities should the product have? What value will it bring to the customer's business? Who is the end user of the product to be? Let's start with listing product features. In this case, it will be select a player, AI, friend, or random stranger. Select dark or light mode for the grid. Select font for X and O's. Ability to chat with an opponent, except for AI. Ability to add or remove friends. Scoreboards, people you played, and worldwide. The value to the business. Marketing research shows that there are 1 million users that would be interested in this game. The game will be free and advertisements will be run. Each advertisement pays 0.01 cent per run. An average number of games planned is 30 games. The cost of development is estimated 4 weeks. Cost of the designer $1,000 per week. The cost of programmers $2,000 per week. Cost of overhead $800 per week. And 4 times all these is $15,200. Net first year revenue is $30,000 minus $15,200, which is $14,800. Payback period is $14,800 divided by 30,000 equals half a year. Targeted audience is English-speaking children and adults who own cell phones. Therefore, the application will be cross-platform for Android and Apple phones. In our case, the product roadmap is going to be a bit simple. We will define features, develop UI, develop backend, test the app, and deploy the app. Let's list the stakeholders and describe what we will need to communicate to them. Joe is the client, and we will need to communicate to him roadmap, backlog plan, release plan. Mike is the product owner, and he will need to know about roadmap, the backlog plan, prioritization, release plan. Tim is a Scrum Master, so he will be managing communications. Finally, our team, Anna, user interface, user experience designer. Then Tom and Mila are developers, and the Scrum Master will need to make sure that they have releases and sprints planned. Brainstorming helps you and your team bring the best ideas forward. You can use sticky notes, a whiteboard, a simple notebook, or a mind mapping tool. Our personal preference is a mind mapping tool. While there are multiple tools that can do mind mapping, one of the favorites is mindmeister.com. It's a free tool, and you can explore what else the website is offering. Navigate there and sign up and try it out if you'd like to follow along. Otherwise, just sit back and watch how we put together a mind map. We start with the root node. Call it tic-tac-toe. and then start adding branches. User interface and user experience, the back end, testing. Then our group might break it down further. We would say start page, settings page, friend management page, a chat page, a scoreboard page. And then our team might break it down even one further step. We would need design select buttons, gear icon, friend icon, a chat icon. Now this example is by no means exhaustive for a real project, but I think by now you get the idea. Our back-end and testing branches would also break down to match the UI pages. In the real-world project, the back-end will have many more components, and if you are using test-driven development, the testing branch would look different. However, for the sake of this exercise, let's stop here. After all, it's not a software development course. So, remember that user story template we talked about, where it's as a type of user, I want an action, so that, a benefit or value, and the story size. We're going to generate user stories to make up our product backlog. So we know that we have a start page in our game. So let's begin with a feature, start a game, and the settings for the game. The examples of the stories are below. We assign story points based on the complexity of the story, and remember that estimating the story size is a team exercise. So looking at story number 1, as a player, I want to start a game so that I can play against an AI, or an artificial intelligence, play against a computer. The story points assigned to that by the developers in the team is 4. The second story, as a player, I want to start a game so that I can play against my friend, and they gave that one a 3. Another story, as a player, I want to start a game so I can play against a stranger. They said that one was a difficulty level of 4. And then settings for the game, as a player, I want to change settings of the game so I can mute the sound, and they gave that story points of 2. We'll stop here with our example since I'm sure you got the idea. And the rest of the backlog will be filled up with user story 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and will be used in release planning. Release planning is the combined efforts of the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developer team. The stories will be assigned priorities and then estimated for each release. We have estimated each story with point scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is easy and 5 is hard. We also know that we have 4 weeks to complete the project, so our release will be 4 weeks, and each sprint will be 5 days. We assume that we will spend half a day on planning and half a day on retrospective. That will give us 4 days in a sprint to work on the implementation. For this example, the logic is straightforward. We begin our sprint 1 by implementing the start game feature and continuing through the backlog. In the real project, there will be many more features and stories that you and your team will need to prioritize and then plan your sprint accordingly. Also, you notice that we have 15 features, but 16 days in total. This is a perfect opportunity to add a buffer to our release. In sprint planning, we will build the sprint backlog. In our example, we'll say that the sprint team picked these items from the backlog, those first 4 items related to start game and settings for the game, and they did it based on the business value. With your sprint backlog selected, you would populate an Agile board with the stories, and then move the stories across the board based on their status in progress, testing, and complete. This sample board shows the progress of this sprint at some point throughout the sprint cycle. There are other softwares that can be used to manage user stories like Asana, Jira, Monday.com, or ClickUp. In addition, you will need a burn down chart. In our case, it's a 4-day sprint, total 63 points for our sprint, and therefore we will need to burn 16 points a day. Every day you will update the actual burn down points, and you will have your burn down chart. Each sprint completes with a sprint retrospective, where we will document issues and lessons learned. Here's a quick example. An issue was mentioned that the error of dividing by 0 was discovered after the testing was complete. Lesson learned: add the divide by 0 unit tests to the standard library of tests. This concludes our example. The example Excel spreadsheet can also be used as a startup template for you to run an Agile project tomorrow.